Can we talk about Oddworld Munch's Oddysee?
Hi, what are you doing?
Talking about Oddworld.
Yeah, hey, listen, this is my channel, and yours is kind of... well, it's all over the place. I mean, you talk about Care Bears.
Right, okay, but now I want to talk about a video game, and this seems like the right place.
Okay, look, you can do it this one time, but that's it, okay? This isn't going to be a regular thing.
Right, sure, cool, but can we talk about Oddworld?
Sure.
Good!
Dude, that's nasty.
Okay, so Oddworld Munch's Oddysee came out on the Nintendo Switch recently, and I have to ask, is this the worst Oddworld game ever? The game originally came out in 2001, so you have to remember that I was 10 years old. I was already reading Animorphs, which were just these politicized war novels about child soldiers getting their limbs violently ripped off, but, you know, disguised as children's literature. And I was way more into reading those books than I was into playing video games. Still though, my friend had a PlayStation and a copy of the first Oddworld game, and I became transfixed by it.
Just because life is doomed, and everyone wants to eat you, doesn't mean there's no hope.
At this point, I thought every video game was about a red plumber going wahoo, or a purple dragon running around, but listen, Oddworld? Man, let me tell you about Oddworld. Oddworld Abe's Oddysee for PlayStation 1 was this horrifically graphic and mature story detailing the lives of slaves working in a meat processing plant on their alien world, toiling away under the mighty capitalist heel of their executive overlords. All the meat is turned into snack foods, like Meech Munchies, Paramite Pies, and Scrab Cakes. The Meeches have already gone extinct by the time the game opens, so we already know that the meat plant doesn't understand the ideas of conservatism, and will hunt an animal to extinction just to make the equivalent of Twinkies for their customers. So when Abe finds out that their next snack is made out of the slaves like him, he freaks out and tries to escape! Already we have an established tone for the game. It's dark, gritty, and violent. Sure, there's some jokes here and there, but overall it's about Abe trying to escape and free his fellow slaves. Oh! Like how Abraham Lincoln... Okay, I just got that. That's neat. But what does Abe have at his disposal? Well, very early on in the level, we find out through this neat diegetic scrolling text that Abe can possess his enemies in order to scout ahead, find where the other slaves are, or even just explode them for fun and profit. Nice! So Abe can take his fellow slaves to large things called bird circles and do a religious chant opening a portal to allow the slaves to run to freedom. The game goes into great detail and care through its level design to show you how to play as well as show the environment just beautifully. For being a late 90s 2D platformer, it just tells a great story. And that's the thing. The main director for these games, Lorne Lanning, was and is still a believer in cinematic storytelling.
Sort of the broad view of the epic of the quintology, and it focused around Abe. And she was like, great, let's make 5 movies. I was like, no, we're going to make 5 games that maybe later will become 5 movies.
He put so much thought and detail into the game through the gameplay and the cutscenes that they actually strung together all the cutscenes from the first 2 games and put them together into a short film contest and won an award for it. The themes present are subtle but inarguable, that capitalism, consumerism, and pollution have driven the world into a dark despair, and it's up to the proletariat working class to rise up above it and stop before they go too far. The second game is kind of important too because it involved the slaves having their eyes stitched shut so they didn't know they were being forced to dig up their ancestors' bones, which were being ground up to make an addictive soda. And also these ghosts show up. Listen, the original Oddworld plot was going to be 5 mainline games, each with the word Oddysee in the title, and so the second game is considered by the creators to be more of a side story. Like, the things you need to know from it. It went even darker, you could talk to more than one slave at once, and it was very much a story about how soda was bad for you. Okay, so that's Abe. But who's this Munch guy? Munch is a one-legged frog/dolphin guy called a gabbit, and he's the last of his kind. All of the others have been hunted to extinction. He's the last one left. He goes onto the shore bouncing on his one leg, sad and alone, crying out for anyone. When he hears a familiar gabbit cry, he excitedly hops towards it, only for it to be a trap.
Then it happened.
So, pretty dark already, right? Yeah, so cut back to Abe and his friends talking to a character named, and I'm not making this up, the almighty Raisin. The game introduces this giant six-eyed sleepy raisin thing and just kind of asks us to accept it. Like, it tells Abe what to do, which takes away his main drive and incentive, robbing him of his character arc, and it's just... I don't know, but the thing is, we're finally at the first level. Let's see how this 2D platformer series transitioned to 3D. Alright, badly, by the looks of it. Alright, so all the sneaking around and subterfuge of the first two games has been tossed out the window in favor of early 3D platformer collectathons. These green dots all over the place are called spoosh shrubs, but you might as well call them dots because the game is Pac-Man now. We went from anti-capitalist art film to weird floaty jump Pac-Man. Can we talk about these jumps? In the previous games, Abe's jumps had a lot of weight to them, with him grasping at ledges and swinging for a second before dragging himself up with his weakened, malnutritioned arms. The jumps had real weight to them. In this game, he jumps around like Tigger, which is a metaphor for the game as a whole, I think. The games used to have weight to them, but now they're floaty and awkward as a whole.
Hey there, fellow chump. Hey, it's Abe.
The first level is all about Abe, which is odd, considering the game has Munch on the cover and in the title, but sure, whatever. So there's this shaman guy that pops up every 10 steps, and he's incredibly annoying, but is used as an exposition piece, and it's like, I get it, you need to explain to new players what to do and all that, but the thing is, in the previous games, you don't need to stop the action to give the information. Quite the contrary. Remember those diegetic text boxes I was talking about? They showed the player how to play without interrupting the flow of the game. And if you were already a seasoned player, you could run in and get into the action right away. You could even find hidden slaves to rescue in the first screen of the game that weren't told to you. It was really well done! In this one, you're pulled out of the action in order to listen to what this shaman guy says, or you could skip it and come off as an asshole.
Hey, Ed. Yeah, I heard it before. Fine, be that way.
Which takes away from immersion and just reminds you, yeah, this is a video game. Which the green Pac-Man dots everywhere that line the path you're supposed to follow, that it just kind of adds to the problem. What used to be something that could win awards at film festivals is now just Pac-Man with more steps. So you do the first level and we finally get to Munch, who's being pushed along towards a surgery room, and the cinematography for this scene is really good because it's silent, it's dark, and you don't see the chalk outline saying cut here on his head until the very end, so while it's goofy, it's still dark first and foremost. I feel like the development for this game started with the game being dark and gritty like this, and then a certain thing happened, which I'll talk about in a bit, and then the game became this goofy thing, which is very evident in the very next scene because the mad scientist talks about diarrhea, baby food, and draws stick figures. I swear to God, the tone for this series has taken a deep dive. We went from Lord of the Rings to Diary of a Wimpy Kid in like no time flat. Okay, so back to gameplay. Although Munch has one leg and is bad at walking around, he gets his own creatures he can talk to. Fuzzles! Fuzzles, or as I like to call them, Chicken McNuggets, are these small brown Furby-looking things with no arms and no legs that can bounce around and bite enemies. This kind of goes into the gameplay changes between Munch's and Abe's games. In the PlayStation games, Abe relies on sneaking around and subterfuge because the slave owners had guns and he died in one hit. The initial tagline for that game was, you have infinite lives, and you'll need them, because of how often you would die in just like one shot. In Munch's game though, you actively recruit a small army of critters and send them to attack on your behalf. It's odd. Abe and Munch are finally united in like level 7 or so, and then the game changes to just them together the whole time. Fun fact, when the game was changed from a PS2 title to an Xbox title, Microsoft wanted them to change the name to Munch and Abe's Fun Adventure, which I think perfectly displays what went wrong. So when I say the game changes to them together, that's a bit of a misnomer. You can only control one of them at a time, and each level is now about you saving the chicken nuggets and slaves, and then going to these nice big pads that have Abe and Munch's faces carved on them, which is a cool way of breaking any and all immersion you had left in the game. Who made these portals? Why are they here? Why can only Abe and Munch use them? Around level 12, that raisin guy is like, oh yeah, we should have a plot. And tells Abe and Munch that although Munch is absolutely the last living member of his species, there exists in the world a single can of Gabiar that has 100 of his species' eggs in it is going to be put up for auction, rather than just, stealing it. The raisin tells Munch that he needs to work together with Abe to give a bunch of stimulus checks to a lazy executive guy named Lulu, and that Abe will possess Lulu into buying the can, and then they steal it. Again, seems like some extra unnecessary steps, but the game is already short as it is, so we might as well stretch it for what it's worth. Here's the thing that really aggravates me, though. When Munch finds out about the can of Gabiar, he says in a shocked voice, "They eat our eggs?" And Abe says in a deadpan, jokey manner, "You ever hear what a Mudokon pup is made of?"
They eat our eggs? You know what's in a Mudokon pup?
Then the game plays a wacky sound effect like a laugh track in Big Bang Theory. Munch and Abe's fun adventures indeed. We've gone from Diary of a Wimpy Kid to goddamn Rugrats now. So the next half of the game is basically just save the slaves and chicken nuggets, possess a rich guy to donate all the money to Lulu through a vending machine in their office that they have for some reason, then open the portal to the next level, rinse and repeat. Hey, here's a fun fact. At the end of the second game, Abe's I've been calling it Exodus this whole time. It has the word odd in it. So at the end of Abe's Exodus, the game says via text that in the next game we'll see Abe's mom. So this was a big planned event to explain why all the slaves are male by saying that the Mudokon species, along with most if not all other species in Oddworld, were insect-like. Abe's mom, Sam, was a queen Mudokon being kept captive to constantly lay eggs and hatch into new slaves. Her hair design was supposed to mimic a halo. She has this whole Mother Mary design to her, as well as a mourning mother knowing her baby would have a hard life. She was supposed to be on this spaceship-looking thing, nah. I guess somewhere in the game's development, wherein it switched development teams 4 times in 3 years, this plot element was scrapped entirely.
You mentioned in the past that you were not happy with how Munch's Oddysee turned out.
Yeah.
The issues with EA are well documented, but I'd like to know what it is that you wanted to see from the game that did not wind up in the game. What was your original vision for Munch's Oddysee that was never realized?
Okay, but Munch's Oddysee, what was I just happy about? That comes back on myself. So I'm not projecting this on any publisher or anyone doing bad. On myself, the enormous learning lesson was that I was still trying to put too much into games.
Still, there are these crates of eggs you have to save now, and that's super weird and totally dissonant with the rest of the already totally confused game. But still, so the thing is, right, you're now on the ship and you're saving these slaves still, and the game is getting harder. Alright, so now Lulu is super rich and the auction is going to start soon, but hold up, this game has multiple endings! I hope you were saving all of those slaves and chicken nuggets, because if too many of them died, you have to start over at the second level now. Enjoy this cutscene of shaved chicken nuggets covered in syringes attacking you. Also, the executive CEO Queen took Munch's lungs, which was so much of a C-plot at this point. It's somewhere near the Q's and R's or something. It's so trivial and unimportant that it's only conveyed through the most overused storytelling trope of all, spinning newspapers between the levels. But let's say you save most or even all of these guys. Well, now you're at the final level, which is all Abe, no Munch.
Okay, you're real close. Now, I hope you don't mind, but Munch had some personal business to tend to.
What, you thought the title being Munch's Oddysee would mean that Munch would play a pivotal role in the first, last, or really any level of this game? No. This is Abe's story. So that shaman guy you kept skipping dialogue for and feeling like a jerk finally does something useful and transforms your slave guys in this level into their strongest form of mud archers. Which is like, if he could have done that this whole time, why is Abe trying to save them? Is the moral of the story just that we should arm the lower classes and shoot the wealthy? Shoot, we're finally getting political again. Maybe this game is actually good? Oh, neat Easter egg in this level, and if I don't mention it, someone would call me out on it. Since the Oddworld wiki decides to list it in the actual plot synopsis of the game, in the first 2 games, Abe can ride on this camel horse thing called Elam, which is basically a Yoshi. And in the last level, the scientist bad guys were dissecting some of them on tables. Imagine if you were playing Mario and you saw a vivisected Yoshi on a table in the final level. Anyway, so Abe goes through the portal and we get a final cutscene where Abe possesses Lulu to bid on this can of fish eggs and lose all of his not-earned money and Munch, the guy the game was named after, just kind of bitches at him to do it. So that's the game, but here's the thing I wanted to talk about this whole time, and that's product placement. So the entire second game, Abe's Exodus, as I said earlier, was all about how it was bad to drink addictive, sugary sodas, and the entire point of the game was that soda was bad. In this game, however, the vending machines that are all presented as not only fun power-up options, but are actually a vital part of the ecosystem. Not only are there vending machines in the industrial areas that provide fun bonus powers for Abe and Munch, be that super speed, super jumping, or in Munch's case, the ability to use lightning on a scientist, but there's vending machines in the more rural and natural environments too. Weird vending machines seemingly constructed of wood branches and stretched leather, but still produce cans of sugary swill to be consumed for the same effect. And listen, I'm no stranger to product placement in video games. I mean, Pepsi Man was a fun PlayStation game that was released in Japan right around the same time as the second Oddworld game. But you really have to wonder about how these anti-corporate politics work when the original Munch's Oddysee had a health-up vending machine that was just straight up a Sobe energy drink machine. Gotta drink that Sobe, right? Oddworld.com has a whole Q&A section, and someone even asked about this. Sobe liked the message of our content and very much liked the quirky humor and irony of our universe. The Vendos appeared in the game as an exchange for the opportunity to be a part of the sneak peek Sobe Xbox Roadshow that gave the public an early opportunity to put Munch and the Xbox in their hands. Whenever a co-promotional opportunity arises, Oddworld's first order of business is to see if there are any outstanding labor or environmental issues with the potential co-sponsor. Not only did Sobe come up clean in our search, but they have also demonstrated historic efforts to try to raise the nutritious quality of the average mass-market soft drink. Well, thank God it's not canon. So, Tyler, how was that?
It was fine, but let's save the video games for me, okay?
Sure. So, anyway, as I was saying, Australians...
Okay, you can leave now!